So what can we do is we can ask only what is in the syllabus, and the rest technical part of your exam you can definitely refer the circulars and guidelines. Okay. Okay. No, I guess the weightage is 50-50. So don't just do only legal aptitude. You will also have to do the logical reasoning. What is memorandum and articles of association? So memorandum and articles of association is basically, like I told you, let me just share. Is it is it sharing visible? Yes. So I was explaining you that memorandum and articles of association. So basically, memorandum and articles are documents of the those public documents which can be viewed by any person who is dealing with the company. Memorandum of association is such that where memorandum of association is basically the document which has the clause, it has the object clause in detail, that what are the objects of the company, then who are the subscribers of the company, who are the promoters of the company, what is the name of the company, where is the registered office of the company situated, like whether it is in state of Maharashtra, state of Gujarat, so on. So that is the case in case of memorandum. In case of articles of association, articles of association is basically the document which govern the internal regulations of the company, that how should the board be composed, or how would be the directors meetings of the board of director, what should be the quorum of meeting, what should be the general, when should be the general meetings be held, and so on. So these are that's what the memorandum and articles of association means. Okay, now what are the further question? Okay, ma'am explain LLP. So what is LLP? LLP is a limited liability partnership. So limited liability partnership, when we say it is about, it's a combination, or it is a combination of partnership and company. So it has got the features of a partnership, so that's why it is called a firm, and the partners in the LLP are called partners, as like the partnership firm. But it has got the features of the corporate personality, the perpetual existence, limited liability. So that's why it is somewhere between, it's a middle of partnership and a company. So that is what is called as LLP, that is limited liability partnership. Okay. Then we have what are the questions? Okay. In board of directors. Board of directors means what? Like we have understood that in case of company, there is people who are responsible for the management of the company. Now, individually, a person is called as a director, and collectively, the directors are called as board of directors. So, this board of directors are responsible for the management of the company, and these can be the shareholders, or they can be different people who are not the shareholders of the company. So basically, board of directors are responsible for the functioning of the company. They are responsible for the decision making, like what should be the bank account, whom should be hired. All of the day-to-day decisions which are being taken by the company, like the policies of the company, are being taken by the board of directors. Now let me see what questions we have. Okay. Okay, let me see what all questions you have. Okay, then there is again one of the question on one person company. So one person company, like I told you, one person company means where there is only one member in the one member or one, and that is called as one person company. Okay. Voidable contract and void contract, what is the difference? So voidable contract, if you see, these contracts are at the option whether the person want to continue, they want to exit out of the contract or not. And void contracts means, like I told you, it is an antithesis. Void means it is nullified, the effect is null, that there exists no contract. So it is such a situation where there exists no contract, so that is called as void contract. So that the person doesn't have any obligations at all in the void contract. Okay, difference. Okay, what we can do is let's take lesson by lesson, because what is happening, all of you are sending me mixed questions, and then we will just, what we can do is we can take lesson by lesson. Okay, so first lesson, any doubts in that? Only on constitution. Yes, any doubts on constitution, just let me know. Okay, so in the like I told you, the most core things of constitution are the fundamental rights, what are the freedoms which are available, what are directive principles. So these are the core areas of the constitution. So these all, right to equality and all. Then what is state? So there can be a MCQ on state, that they may ask you whether this is a state or not. Then what is fundamental rights? What are right to equality, right of equality? So all this right to equality are important. Again, what does this all mean? Because they may ask you a question of application, that whether there is a discrimination, or that this person has not getting this particular right, and so on. So that can uh, possibility. So constitution, these six freedoms are important. Yes. So you have any doubt? Then this permissive. What are the, so like we see, like we saw that these freedoms are not absolute. They have this kind of restrictions on you. So that is what is, then right against exploitation, right against freedom, and this directive principles. So directive principles are what, if you see, these are the fundamentals in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty. So what is the difference? That these principles can't be enforced by law, like the fundamental rights which we have, these cannot be enforced. So if you see, one the subcommittee constituted assembly suggested two types of fundamental rights. So the one which can be enforced, and one which cannot be enforced. So the provisions contained, so the directive principles, if you see, the provisions contained here are cannot be enforced by law. So that is about directive principle. Okay, then what are the next questions? So then fundamental duties is what you will have to again take care of, that what are the fundamental duties. Then what is a citizen? Who can be termed as a citizen? House of Parliament. What are the powers of president? Then what is Rajya Sabha, Council of States, Lok Sabha, Council of Members, Constituent Assembly, who can be the governor. Then what is a judiciary, whether lower courts, higher court, Supreme Court, and so on. So then there is a writ jurisdiction. Okay, I see some of you are asking for writs related issue. So types of writs. So like I told you, habeas corpus is what it is about the body, bring the body. So the person might be wrongfully detained and the court may ask, please bring the body. So that is the about habeas corpus. Then we have got mandamus, so it means command. So here what is being done? The writ of mandamus is a command issued to any to direct any person. So basically, it is given an order by a higher court to a lower court or likewise. So that is what is the writ of mandamus. Prohibition is saying no, no, you don't do this. So basically, it is preventing the letter from usurping the jurisdiction, which is not legally vested. And certiorari is where anybody of persons having legal authority, any body of persons having legal authority to determine questions affecting the rights of subjects and having the duty to act judicially in excess of their legal authority. So that is what is certiorari. And quo warranto, what we see, it is usurping, claiming which a person asserts to an office and to oust him from such position if he is an usurper. So that is what quickly what is about writs. Uh, anything so far? Any doubts in constitution? Okay, what else you have? Just let me know on constitution, otherwise we'll move on to the next chapter. Okay, I don't see any questions. Yes, articles are important. Article numbers are important. So try to memorize that. It would be good. So like I'm telling you, sections and articles are the fundamentals of any legal student. So try memorizing that. And the more times you will read it, you will automatically kind of remember it. Okay. Okay, so I guess we're done with constitution. We can move to the general laws. Okay, Indian Contract Act. Any questions on Indian Contract Act? I just now explained what is voidable contract. Okay, Iubere fide. So Iubere fide, these are the special types of contracts where there is an excess duty which is being cast on the parties involved. So like I told you about an insurance contract, where the insurance premium which you pay, right? If you do not disclose if you are a chain smoker, or if you forgot to disclose you're a diabetic, or you had some surgery which is going to have a potential impact on your health. So if you failed to disclose, it was not intentional on your part, but you just missed it and you forgot to mention. So whether the insurance company can say, oh, so sorry, you forgot to mention. No, these contracts require a special duty to be casted on you, and it requires that you need to disclose everything and you cannot forget. So then the insurance company may say, oh, you did not mention you're a chain smoker. Now we will not honoring the payment of the hospital. So that's why it requires a special duty that you cannot make mistakes. It's like a with prospectus. You cannot make mistakes, and you cannot, there is a special duty. You cannot be making any negligence. You cannot be making any mistakes in that, because there's a lot of public money involved when it comes to prospectus. Okay. Then what are the questions? Okay, what is breach of contract? So breach of contract means, like I told you, breach means there is a broken, the contract is broken. Now what is this broken? That suppose A has agreed to deliver 100 goods to B. So everything was agreed between the parties, the price and everything. There was consensus ad idem, everything. But now B did not deliver the goods on the date which was been agreed. So what he has promise which he had agreed that he is going to deliver the goods. So basically, since he has broken the promise, that is called as a breach. So that is called as a breach of a contract. He has breached the contract which he had agreed to. Okay, then what you have in questions? Okay, impossibility of frustration. So, like I told you, frustration occurs when there is the contract, the subject matter gets destroyed, or it is impossible for the person to perform a contract. So, like I told you, if there is a painter and he is been there is a painting which has been ordered from him, and because of his injury, disablement of his hand, now he's never being able to be paint, or even if he is able to paint, it won't be of that stature or quality which he used to paint. So that's why this contracts get frustrated or becomes impossible for the painter to perform. So that is called as doctrine of impossibility or frustration, where the subject or the matter of the contract itself, it is not able to be performed at all. It frustrates the whole thing that for what the contract was entered into. Okay. Then questions we have got of, okay, privity of contract. So many people are asking on privity of contract. So privity of contract, what it means that a stranger, so if there is a contract between you and your friend, can I just ask and impose, oh, how you have not delivered the goods to my to this person? To say, hey, what is your nexus to this contract? The contract is between two of us. Why are you coming into picture? So similarly, a stranger to a contract cannot sue under English law and Indian law. So if a person is not a party to a contract, he does not generally have got any right in or obligation arising out of that contract. So that is called as a stranger person who is not a party to a contract cannot sue under English and Indian law. Okay. Then there are questions on lapse of offer. Okay. So when does the offer gets lapse? So this is the section 6 deals with the lapses of offer. So when does the offer? So I have made you an offer, but when does it lapse? So it can lapse within the specified time. So like I told you, if I have said that 31st of August or offer will lapse, then after 31st of August, there would not be any offer. If the accepted mode is not being honored, so if I asked you to put an SMS, but you send me an email, or I asked you to call and you send me a text, so obviously it is not in the prescribed mode. The offeree rejects it, is not interested. Either the offer or offeree dies. So one of the party dies before acceptance. The acceptor fails to fulfill a condition precedent to acceptance. So, like I told you, if I say I'm going to sell this books only if you are a student, but if you are not a student, then obviously the condition for which I have mentioned is not getting fulfilled. And the offeree makes a counter offer. So I say, I give you an offer, I'm selling this book at 500 rupees. You give me a counter offer saying, ma'am, I'm not interested. I'll buy only at 400. If you want to give, okay, otherwise I'll not purchase. So it's a counter offer being given. So that creates a lapse and offer. Okay. Then what is the question? Doctrine of privity, I explained. Consideration. So consideration it is the exchange, right? It is essential element and the requirement. So basically when we say that A is giving 100 goods to B for rupees 10,000, so basically that 10,000 becomes the consideration for the contract. So it is basically in return. Yes, so if you see, this is the definition which says, it says about past, future and present, abstain to do something, or act of abstinence, or promise to do something. So it is a promise or act of to do something, that is called as, in simple language I can tell you, like 10,000 here is the consideration. Okay. Ma'am, what is coercion? Okay, coercion means, like I told you, if you are being put under a gunpoint and you have been asked to sign a contract and everything other areas are perfectly okay, so that becomes the coercion, where you are threatening somebody to do unlawfully detaining or threatening to detain, and any prejudice by any person, whatever the intention which causes the person to enter into an agreement. So You're putting at me at a gunpoint and asking me to sign a check, or the threat is to the other person who is keen to me, or the threat is to the property of mine. So that is what coercion means. Undue influence, like I told you, when there are relation between two parties is such that if, like for example, a parent, a foster parent and a kid, like a person who doesn't have parents, is an adopted person, for example, and he is being taken, or he's not an adopted person, but he's been taken care by some people involved. So they become like, there is an undue influence which exists. So undue influence means what? When there is an influence which is being made and which is not in interest of the person who is entering into a contract, and the other person is exercising it. So the other person is in a dominant position, and their use is to obtain an unfair advantage. So it's very important that there is an unfair advantage of that dominant position. Okay. Questions we have. If we just now explained. So, okay, contract of indemnity and guarantee. Fine. So, in case of indemnity, so a contract of indemnity is a contract by which one party promises to save the other from the loss. So, like I told you, contract of indemnity, it's like your insurance of, say, car insurance, right? Where you kind of into your car and your car gets damaged, the insurance company is going to pay you. If you unfortunately accidentally bumped another, the insurance company is going to pay you. So basically, it is a promise that they will make the loss good to you, whether it is because of you the loss has occurred, or whether it is by way of some other person and you have suffered the loss. So either of which the insurance company is going to help you. So such is the contract of indemnity. And guarantee, like I told you, guarantee means where there is three parties involved. There is a surety, there is a principal debtor, and there is a creditor. So basically, the principal debtor. So if I have taken a loan from the bank, so bank becomes the creditor, I become the principal debtor. And say if my father says, okay, if you are not able to fulfill the loan, I will be your surety. So my father becomes the surety over here, means if I fail to repay the loan, the surety, that is my father, will repay the loan to the bank. So that is what the contract of guarantee means. So there are three parties involved. The person, in general language, we call it as a guarantor, but it is called as a surety. Okay. What are the next questions you have? Okay. Any questions? Okay, law of agency. So basically, what is agent? Agent means, say, for example, I appoint somebody else to conduct on my behalf. So it's like a, right? When you, there are partners involved. Partners are also agents of each other and the partnership. So what it does that mean? So basically, they represent. So if you and me are partner in a firm, what happens? I say, oh, we have a firm. So I represent you also in that, and I enter into a contract with any particular firm for that matter. So that is what the principle of agency is, where there is a person who is on your behalf entering into a contract or whatever authority you have given to that person. So there are various types of agents which we have seen. So basically, an agent is a person who is employed to bring his principal into contractual relations with the third party. So he is not directly, he may not be directly entering into a contract. He is kind of helping you to enter into a contract. There are various types of agent. Depending upon the nature of agency, the contracts will be entered into. Okay. Now, what are the questions? Consensus ad idem, like I told you, consensus ad idem means when there is same thing being mentioned in the same manner and at the same time. So like I told you, if I'm referring white horse, but you are thinking I'm referring to the black horse and I'm saying, okay, I want to sell this horse. and you think I'm pointing out to the black horse, whereas I'm intending to sell the white horse. So even if the consideration is agreed and everything is perfect, but we did not mean the same thing in the same manner at the same time. So that's why it is no consensus ad idem. Pagering contract. You want pagering contract. So let me just pull out so that you can use. So there are also questions on quasi contract. So quasi contract means a valid contract must contain, like we see, there should be offer, acceptance, consideration. But one in favor when there is no offer, no consensus ad idem, and in fact there is no agreement at all. So, like I told you, what are quasi? It is basically based on the principle of unjust enrichment. What is unjust enrichment? That you cannot be enriched or you cannot get rich at the favor of or at the problem because of the other person. In the sense now, if you we have entered into a contract and you were supposed the contract was for 10,000 rupees, you were supposed to transfer me 10,000 rupees, but accidentally you put an extra zero, and by which you transferred 1 lakh rupees to me. Now the contract was for only 10,000. Now obviously what do you say, ma'am, please return the 90,000 rupees which you have gained in excess. So that is an unjust enrichment. It has made me rich, but am I supposed to receive that 90,000? The answer is no. So I have unfortunately received that 90,000 in excess. Now what is going to happen? This is an unjust enrichment on my part. Now there is no contract or no offer, no acceptance, no consensus ad idem for that 90,000 rupees, right? There is no contract between us for that 90,000 rupees. But can I say that, okay, I'll keep it because you have given me now and I'm not going to return you? No, that's what the quasi contract rests on, the principle of equitable principle, that a person should not be unjustly enriched at the expense of the other. So here that 90,000 I'm supposed to return you, even no acceptance, no consensus ad idem, no contract, neither agreement. But I should, this is a equitable principle that I should not get rich at the cost or expense of yours. So that is called as quasi contract. Okay, what is further? Any questions on discharge of contract, breach of contract, remedies? Okay, no question, great. Privity, I just now explained. Okay, agency by estoppel, fine, can take that. So estoppel means when you are precluded from denying the truth of anything which you have represented as a fact. So that a person is saying that, okay, I'm an agent of this person, and I'm also nodding head and I'm also saying yes, yes, he is my agent. So I represented a fact that this person is my agent. So later on, I cannot say, oh no, this is not my agent. I never said this was not the case. There is no written contract between us and all. So basically, when you have agreed on something and you did not deny that truth, okay, you have to deny that truth. So if that person is referring me that I am the agent of this person and it is happening everything in front of me, I did not deny the truth. I let that person believe that this person is my agent. Okay, though it is not a fact. So it is not a fact that I've appointed him as an agent, but I let the representation to be made to that or that person to believe that this person is my agent. So later on, if something goes wrong, I cannot take a stand that, oh, no, 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 this person was not my agent. So I will be estopped, means I'll be stopped from denying. I would be stopped from saying no, that this person is now not my agent. So I can't take a stand. I'll be stopped from saying that this person is not my agent. I cannot say that by estoppel. Okay. Okay. You want wagering agreement? No problem. So what is wager? So basically, wager means it is like a betting. So if India wins the match, you will pay me 100 rupees. If India loses the match, I will pay you 100 rupees. So wagering, in wagering there involves a betting, what we typically understand. So there is a win-lose or an happening of an event. Like this person wins the election, you will pay me something and something. Or so basically there is a win and loss in that. That somebody is going to win and somebody is going to lose because of that event. So that is called as a wagering agreement. Okay. What else you want? Okay, you want Del Crader agent. Fine. Let me just take you through that. Trader agent, of course, it is a mercantile agent who, in consideration of an extra remuneration, so he is going to take something extra remuneration for that. And what he does is, if you see, uh, to his principle that the purchaser who buy on credit pay the goods they take. So even third party failing to pay, the Del Crader agent is bound to pay his principal. So basically, he takes extra commission, goods on credit, and he'll say they'll pay for the goods they take. So if I'm your Del Crader agent and I sell the goods to somebody else and they have taken that goods on credit, so I say, okay, let them take on credit. I'll give you, you give an extra remuneration guarantee. I give you a guarantee that even though they don't pay, I'll pay you. So there is a the extra remuneration is for the guarantee which the Del Crader agent takes, that even though the customer does not pay the goods, I will pay you the money for that. That becomes a Del Crader agent. Okay, any questions, or we can move on to the next chapter because then we'll be stuck with only contract and we'll not finish the other chapters. So we'll just move on to the from contract now. Any questions on tort? Okay, guys, if we just are stuck on contract, we'll not finish the other chapters. The time is limited. Okay, what is vicarious liability? Okay, vicarious liability means, like I told you, this is a liability. When now, for example, when the liability will arise if something which only I have done it, right? If I have done something, obviously I am responsible for it. I am liable for it. But what is happening in case of a vicarious liability? In some cases, a person may be held liable for the tort committed by another person. So, when my employee does it, that employee has done something wrong. Okay, I have not done something wrong, but that employee has done something wrong of mine. Now, here I would say, can I say that, oh, I'm not responsible, it's the employee who has done it, the liability is only to the employee? No. So, here the vicarious liability means a master is vicariously liable, means even though he has not done personally, but his employee has done it, his servant has done it, then also I am held responsible for that, even though I have not personally done it. So that is called vicarious. What else you have? Mens rea means guilty mind. Okay, mens rea means there is a guilty mind involved. So vicarious liability of the state we have explained. What else you want? Yes, any questions on tort? Okay, malicious prosecution, fine. So malicious prosecution means basically these are the essential ingredients of a malicious prosecution, that there is a prosecution, okay, there is a prosecution of plaintiff, that if the person A is a has instituted a suit that okay B has done something and it's a prosecution, there must be a reasonable want of reasonable and probable cause for that. Then of course there must be malice involved, that is it should be with a improper motive, it should be that this person should be behind the bar is what the motive, for example, and not for the justice purpose, but it is just to with an improper motive to put that person to bring a disreputation and so on. And the plaintiff must have suffered damages because of but the prosecution must have terminated in the favor of plaintiff. So these are the ingredients. Okay. Okay. What else you have in thoughts, or I'll move on to the next lesson. Okay, I think there are no questions. Yes, anything on CS Act, CS regulations? Yes, anything on CS regulations? Do you have any questions? Okay, I don't think you have questions. We can move on to the next. Okay, let's move on to the next chapter or we'll never finish the portion. So if you're asking the questions in the earlier chapter we have done, you have the link recorded, don't worry. You can visit on the ICSI YouTube channel. So the lectures which I have conducted are uploaded on the ICSI students YouTube channel. Okay, so please you can the recorded sessions, you can hear that and it will be easy for you to recollect all those concepts which I've explained them in very detail. So you can take a note of that sessions. Again, I'll help you. The sessions are available on the ICSI students YouTube channel. So those questions, those lectures have been uploaded. So please go through whenever you require something in detail. Okay, so I think there are no questions on the CS regulations. I'll move on to the next. Yes, anything on company law? I guess we discussed. Is anything you have on company law? Okay, private company has max 200 members, including present and ex-members. So I explained you in the calculation of 200 members what has to be included and what has not to be included, and how to calculate that 200 number of members. Corporate personality, I have been explaining you now and there that it is vested with a corporate personality, that the members are, the company is distinct from its members and shareholders. Basically it's different personality, it's a separate legal entity. It doesn't, it is not the same as that of the shareholders. So like unlike partners and partnership firm and same, sole proprietor and sole proprietorship is one and same, but in case of company it is a separate legal entity distinct from its members. Dormant company, okay, what is Section 8 company? Like I told you, and a company which is formed for a charitable objects, or for objects which are not for profit. Basically, the intention is not to generate or earn profits out of that and earn dividends, but to do some kind of a social work or some kind of a work which will help the society at large. Okay, what else you have? Yes, any questions, or and should I skip to the next? Okay, like I'm telling you, for the detailed discussions, there are the lectures which I've taken have been uploaded on the ICSI YouTube channel. You can go back and again hear that till the time you have understood it. So don't worry about it. The lectures have been uploaded. My earlier lectures have also been uploaded on the ICSI YouTube students YouTube channel. So feel free to revise that and go through again and again. Okay. So NGO and Section 8 company, like I told you, Section 8 company essentially means it is a company which is being registered under the Companies Act. Okay. Okay. I guess we will move to the next questions. Next. Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing that links. The links, all the lectures have been uploaded on the ICSI YouTube channel. You can definitely go through that. Yes, we'll go to logical reasoning now. We'll take from the last chapter and then we'll come back to the first chapters. Okay, verbal reasoning, like I told you, analogy, we discussed about what is analogy when there are a similar set of things like temperature, like it's being mentioned, quantity and unit, it can be related, it can be selection of group or for individuals, or it's like capital, Mumbai, Maharashtra, then what is Ahmedabad for? So that way, the analogies are being discussed. Then the letter series is what we discussed, number coding. I guess this we have discussed. Let me take the next chapter. And yes, so what is analytical reasoning? What is deductive reasoning? Basically, it is a process of logic based on one or more statements. So reasoning here, what happens is the now the example which is given: all students eat pizza. Raman is a student at KKM, therefore Raman eats pizza. So it's you have to deduct and then you can come at to the reasoning for that particular example. So based upon that, now if if two of the members have to be boys, a team will consist of so and so. So here they ask you if A is selected, then what S is selected, then what B is selected, and R cannot be selected, and so on. So that is something a deductive reasoning which can be taken care over here. What else? Incomplete pattern. Again, the pattern, finding the missing figure. So how you're going to understand what is a pattern involved, what is a sequence, and you'll also have to find out the movement of figure in the clockwise, whether it is a clockwise or an anti-clockwise or a 90-degree pattern or any other movement according to the degree, basically. So that is how you're going to solve that. Then you have figure matrix. So here the rows and columns in the matrix, and there will be a horizontal line in the row. Then the vertical line is called obviously a column. So what is a row? What is a column? Then there is a certain relation between the row and column. And in this type of questions, a matrix is given and one space is left blank, as we all know, and then the question related to that would come. So what would be the figure for that, and so on. Is the theory? No, the theory is not important in the logical reasoning. The theory is just for your understanding. The questions would be more important in the logical reasoning. Okay. In identical figures, I guess we have seen that. What are the identical figures? I guess it's very easy for you to understand. Mirror image is also something which you can solve. Rule detection. Okay. So any questions which I you want me to answer on the logical reasoning quickly? Okay, that pen paper, you can directly raise the questions to the ICS, I guess that can be helpful because I'm not the authorized person to help you on that. So any technical questions related to your exam, you can definitely ask or request for the ICS help on, or the chapter can help you on that. Yes, any questions? Okay, you want the clock concept, but like I told you, we have very limited time. I will just help you with the yesterday I helped you with the clock concept, right? So uh, yeah, so we can skip that, I believe, because again our time we can devote on something more. Okay, any one-liner questions you want me to answer? One-liner. I'll answer in one line. Okay. Uh, see, strict liability. Okay, there is a question: strict liability. For example, like I told you, in case of strict liability, it means that now in case of hazardous gases which are being stored, or the chemicals, if you see, These are now what you can say, oh, it was not my, we didn't intend to do that, or it was because of the negligence of one party. So what strict liability principle says is that whether it was your issue or not, whether have you taken a proper care or not, so there will be a strict liability on you, irrespective of how the things have. Because what happens, otherwise, what will happen? There will always be an excuse that, oh, this was not the reason, or it was not intentional on our part to do this. It was not, it just accidentally the gas leaked. Accidentally the gas leaked, and it can lead to tragedy of so many people. Like so many people can die in that. So that's why this is the evolution of strict liability, where the statutes have held that no, this is a liability which you will not be able to escape, and it's a strict liability on your behalf. So this is again a very simple way, and of course Rylance versus Fletcher and all these rules will definitely apply. But that's what the strict liability or absolute liability is, that in some torts a defendant is liable even though the harm to plaintiff occurred without intention or negligence. So even though it was not intention, or it was a negligence, that doesn't evade the person from having the liability. Okay. Ma'am, if A Limited holds 62% in B Private Limited, this statement, okay, wait. This statement is made in such a manner that it feels that B Private Limited is holding company and the former is subsidiary. But which one is holding and subsidiary? So, like I told you, in case of holding and subsidiary, what are the key tests? How to determine a subsidiary? So subsidiary can be by way of a control of composition of board of directors, or by acquiring more than 50% of the voting rights, total voting power. So that's why if A Limited holds 52% in B Limited, so it is holding in B Private Limited 52%. So obviously B Private Limited is a subsidiary and A is a holding company. Same, there is a clear differences which they have shown in what is tort and crime. That is what is being mentioned over here. But yes, there are some torts also are, like defamation is also is in IPC. So section 499 defamation is also there, like it is a tort as well. Okay, what else you want me to help on? Okay, which is your query? Because there are so many chat which comes and then I lose the questions. Okay, A holds 60% in B and B holds 40% in C, which is holding and subsidiary. A holds 60% in B. So obviously B is the subsidiary. B Private Limited is subsidiary of A Private Limited, and B holds 40% in C. So there is no nexus between B and C now. You have just mentioned, assuming there is no relation of A and C. So the C company is just the associate company of B because it is holding more than 20%. Okay. So there is no nexus between B. It is just an associate company. Yes. We have got 5 minutes more. Let me know what questions you have, and I'm happy one answer I would be happy to give you. Yes, you have more questions on contract, I believe, is what I'm understanding. Okay. Uh, any questions on contract? Okay, void agreement. So void and illegal agreement. So this is the list of void agreements which they have mentioned over here for your quick understanding. So an agreement with of which is consideration is unlawful. Obviously, like I told you, A is willing to murder B at the request of C, and C says, "I'll give you 5 lakh rupees if you murder B." So obviously the object and consideration is unlawful. That's why it's obviously a void contract. Can you enforce that contract? The answer is no. So that is called as a void contract. Here comes the list of so basically void contracts we have seen, and this is the distinction between the illegal contract. So a void contract is one which destitute of legal effects altogether. An illegal contract too has no legal effect as between the immediate parties to the contract, but has the further effect of tainting the collateral contracts with also with illegality. So this is the feature that the further collateral contracts, so the contracts which are dependent on that contract will also be illegal in that situation. Yes, so what ma'am you're saying I'm not understanding. Uh, Discharge and frustration I explained you. Okay, what else you have to? Thank you guys. It's really appreciate your all your kind words. Okay, I can take last 5 questions and then we can end the session over here. Okay, difference between assault and battery. So like a battery is something when there is a physical touch involved. Assault here means even if you threaten me, I have an apprehension that you are going to beat me. That can also be an assault. So it is not necessary that there is a physical beating involved. Even though there is an apprehension that the other person is going to beat, that can become an assault. Okay, what else? Section, I'm been telling you that section, article number, you are now going to be legal students. Where there would be a lot of weightage on legal subjects. So it's good you start inculcating the habit of the section number and article number. It will definitely help you a long way. Because while we are focusing on your exam, but that's not your goal. Your ultimate goal is to become the CS, right? And that's why it is important for you to start remembering the section number and article number. Okay, what else you want me to? Okay, like I'm telling you, the YouTube channel links are available. So you can, wherever I've explained all the concepts in detail, you can go again and again and read here so that it will be helpful for you to understand the particular subject which is not possible right now due to the paucity of time. Okay. Okay. So any quick questions you want? So I've stopped sharing now. So now I'll just help you that please concentrate on the question. Just 2 minutes now, we will just try to understand how we can solve the logical reasoning and legal aptitude questions. So first read the questions properly. What is the question? What are they trying to ask? Because you might know everything, but what that question is being asked is very important. So even though despite knowing all the provisions, you should not miss the question and then answer it differently. Okay, so try and read the questions which you are able to solve, quickly. Try and solve that first so that it will solve the questions which require more time. Okay, because some questions you're very confident of, very easy to solve. Try to solve those questions quickly because the time limit is also there. So the questions which require some for you to time to think or time to understand, time to concentrate, then that can be solved later, so that you don't, that doesn't eat your time on the simple questions. Okay, so try to solve, don't just concentrate on legal aptitude. Your logical reasoning is also important, so try and solve those questions as well. Hello, am I audible? Okay. Okay, so I thank you for all your participation, and it was great time helping you all. I'm sure all of you are going to pass the exam. Just have a positive attitude. Okay, don't get nervous, don't get bogged down by all the syllabus. Try to concentrate. You have got few days left. Still everything is possible. So try to concentrate, try to fully concentrate, understand the subject, understand the concept, and it will be really helpful for you to solve the questions. Okay, I think there are no further questions. Okay, so thank you all of you. It was lovely time with you all. And like I'm telling you again, you can go back to the IIS channel. There are lectures uploaded. Feel free to take your own time to understand a particular subject or particular concept which you have not understood, which has been explained. Okay. So take care, all of you. Thank you so much. And I will end the session over here now. Okay. Yes. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. It was good to know. It was a nice experience.